Hi, my name is Ben from Benzochess here with another video on Intro to Tactics, and today we're going to be talking about the pin. Pins can be very helpful tools. They happen in pretty much every game. But what is a pin? A pin is when you're using one of your pieces, which there's only 3 pieces that can perform the pin, and it's attacking a small piece to a bigger piece. So one of your 3 pieces that we're going to go over very quickly is going to attack a smaller piece to a bigger piece in a straight line. Okay? So if you want to give it a shot, it's white to move here. Pause your video. Answer in 3, 2, 1. Okay. Here it is bishop to d4. And what this is a bishop attacking the rook. And yes, the rook might be bigger than the bishop, but our bishop is attacking a piece, the rook, which the rook is smaller than the king. Sometimes somebody might be confused and think that you have to have the piece actually be smaller, like they're thinking that it has to be a pawn or something smaller than the bishop, and a bishop is attacking it. No. It's just a piece that's being attacked. The rook is smaller than the king, and the king is behind the rook. So this is known as a pin. And next move, well, the king will move somewhere, for example, here. And then we take the rook for free. Another thing I can explain, there is 2 types of pins, absolute and relevant. Okay? An absolute pin means the piece cannot move. It's absolutely being pinned down to the ground. So let's get to the next puzzle. Okay, second absolute pin. White to move. See if you can solve it. 3, 2, 1. Okay, if you didn't see it, here's the answer. Rook to e2. It is pinning the bishop to the king. The bishop's smaller than the king. Actually, all chess pieces, if you think about it, do the math, everyone's smaller than a king. So next, the king will move, and you take the bishop. Again, the bishop cannot move, okay? Because you cannot walk into check. Okay. So far we did the bishop and the rook. Those are 2 pieces. There's only one more piece that can perform the pin. Take a wild guess. 3, 2, 1. Here's the next problem with the last piece. It is white to move. See if you can solve it. 3, 2, 1. Okay, here it's pretty simple. You can either do queen to e1 or queen to e3. Again, you're attacking the bishop, which you're really pinning the bishop to the king. The king's hiding behind the bishop here, okay? If you can't see that. So the bishop cannot move, otherwise check. King moves, and you take the king for free. Okay, now there's 3 pieces that cannot perform the pin. The knight, the pawn, and the king. What they can do, and actually all pieces can do this, but what they can do is add pressure, okay? So for example, it is white to move. If you want to guess the whole, how it plays out, cool. But pause it very quickly, otherwise. 3, 2, 1. Okay, first move will be rook to e2, pinning the bishop to the king again, right? So now the king comes, and now he protects the bishop. Well, the rook can't just take the bishop right now, because that's just a bad trade for white. Rook's worth 5, bishop's worth 3. You do the math. black actually gains off of that trade and gets a draw. But now, since there's still a pin there, why not add pressure? The knight. Okay. Now the knight is actually adding another piece to the pin piece. So instead of just the rook pinning, we have the knight attacking. So that's two pieces on there. Okay. So now let's say the king moves over here. I mean, he can move the other way and it'll be better for him, but now we can gobble up the bishop. If you think about it again, we pin the piece, and actually king has a better move, but let's say it goes there, then you can just add pressure. Okay? It'll be too much for him to handle. Okay. So the knight can add pressure. Can a pawn add pressure? Let's see here. It is white to move. Answer in 3, 2, 1. Okay. Bishop to f4, pinning the rook to the king. Now the king will come up to protect the rook, so the trade will just be even. Well, not even. White will win the trade, but instead just winning the trade by a couple pawns, why not win the whole piece by moving the pawn to also attack the pin piece, which is adding pressure. King will come down, and now you win the rook because we add pressure there. Okay. Bam, bam, slam, kapam. Okay. Next position is here. Okay. So, okay, I set this one up wrong. Sorry. Apologize. It's just a free queen takes rook. Queen's supposed to be on d2. But, okay, let's just say if it was on d2 right now, and it moves to f4 for the pin, okay? So, the king will protect it with king to d6. Now, white king can go up to d4 to add pressure, okay? Because here there's a pin, right? The rook can't move yet, but if we bring the king up, we add pressure. It's 2 versus 1. Should be an easy piece to win. Okay. Another thing about pieces that are pinned is once they're pinned or being pinned, they can no longer protect someone else, especially in the absolute pin. Okay. So here, normally, you can look at the enemy pawn here and see it's protecting the knight, right? You would think so. But the problem here is our piece is pinning the pawn to the king. So no longer is the pawn protecting the knight, because pawn cannot take back because it's checked. So here it's white to move. Okay, you can try it. Otherwise, answer in 3, 2, 1. It is bishop takes f6. Okay, and the pawn cannot take, otherwise the king will be in check by the rook. Here's another one. Okay, once someone is being pinned, they can no longer really protect anyone because they're pinned down. Okay, especially in the absolute pin. In a relevant pin, they can protect, but at a cost. So here it's white to move. Find the best move. Answer in 3, 2, 1. The correct move is bishop takes h6 because the queen is pinning the g7 pawn to the king. Now the pawn cannot take back, otherwise it's illegal. You can't take back. King will be in check. So let's say black played g6, which is another blunder. because now queen can just take for free. Check. Why is this? Well, let's look at it. The f7 pawn you would think can take, but it's actually being pinned by the c4 bishop. So black is in a real mess here. Okay, so you can add pressure with a piece. And when a piece is being pinned, it is no longer protecting. How can you achieve this? Well, one thing you can do is have one of your pieces lined up to a really big piece. So for example, it is white to move here, and let's have a look for a strategy, okay, in this crazy position. Let's move our rook on f1 to e1. When we do this, it's actually now pinning the knight to the king. Okay, so let's say black keeps on developing with knight to f6. Now he has two knights protecting the bishop. One of them's being pinned. So if we play a bishop on d1 takes g4, it's not time for that because knight on f6 can take back. The one on e5 cannot. So before we can take, let's maybe add pressure, okay? Because we made a threat of taking the bishop, but let's add pressure. d4, attacking the knight, okay? So maybe knight f to d7 will be played by your opponent. But now this is just really bad because if you look at it, the knight on e5 is being pinned and being pressured by the pawn. It can also no longer protect the g4 bishop. Actually, the other knight left, so that bishop is actually hanging if you think about it. So let's take it with our d1 bishop. Bam. And let's say there's really no moves for black, and black can only think about going to safety. So he castles. Now you take the knight with your pawn. You actually won two pieces for a pawn. That's pretty incredible. Knight takes back. You play bishop to d1. He has a knight, two rooks, and a queen versus your two rooks and a queen, a knight, and two bishops. Subtracted, knight for knight, two rooks, and the queens. You actually have the two bishop advantage. Okay. Two bishops versus a pawn pretty much. Okay. I think there's one more. Or maybe two more. Okay. So here's a relevant pin we have right now. So we have the g5 bishop pinning the knight, which is to the queen. And there's actually a couple of things here. For one, since this is relevant, all pins are always your piece is attacking someone. Our bishop is attacking the knight. Okay? And then the knight is actually smaller than a queen. So, and they're lined up straight like this. So that is a relevant pin. Well, not that. Oh, what's going on here? Let's get all of that. Okay. A lot of crazy stuff there. Okay. So, yeah, that's a relevant pin. And the knight can actually jump. Let's say he wants to jump to e4. Well, the problem is once the knight on f6 jumps to e4, then we actually take their queen, right? So that's not good either. And another thing you can, well, a lot of times when you do these pins, they might just move their bishop to e7. And then you can just continue your game. Well, let's say he doesn't do that, and he's afraid of that pin, so he instead moves his queen. Now if he did this, now you can actually disrupt his position a little bit and start creating weaknesses by taking the knight, and he has an open hole right here. Okay, so that's pretty good. Okay, so let's go to the next position. This is the last position, and let's see if I can flip it. There we go. Okay, so these pins can happen in games, and this is an example of what could happen in a game. I had this happen 2 or 3 times in this type of opening. I don't suggest playing this opening for beginners, because you can actually do pins in a lot of other openings that might be as effective or more. Okay, so here's the first couple moves, and I am black here. So there's one pin right there, right? He stops the pin. I keep on developing. He attacks my bishop. I might as well just take. It's part of the opening. Okay. So here, I'm going to try to come up with a strategy of the pin piece. I see that there's a king right here, and there's a possibility of this and this. Okay, I want to try take advantage of that little attack. That's my goal. So I have to probably bring a rook to g6 and then probably use that to my advantage. So rook to g or f6, so I can slide it over on the next move. Let's say he moves his rook over, so you can have a half open file. I move my rook to g6, and now I'm very dangerous, and white has to watch out here. Okay, so the one thing white does not want to do is unprotect the knight, because the knight's only protected once. So either the bishop or the queen has to protect the knight on f3. But let's say this happened before. Queen decided to go to c2 instead for a possible e4 push. But this is a mistake because now I have tactics. Okay, there's already a pin. I could just take the knight right now and it's a free piece. Okay, but instead I want to make it take more advantage than just winning a piece. I want to go for checkmate. So a rook sacrifice is just insane. So now the king takes back, and now you see that bishop is actually pinning the knight to the king, so my queen can come in for free. Check. And there's no way the knight can take my queen because it's being pinned by the bishop. And white should have had that knight protected by another piece. But nope. After the king moves, then the bishop takes, and it's checkmate. So hopefully you learned a lot from this pin video, and I'll see you guys at the next video. Thank you.